Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever Royal Oak Model United Nations mock presidential debates. My name is Claire McNorton, and I will be serving as your moderator. Representing Democratic candidate President Barack Obama will be Maxwell Pettit, and representing Governor Romney will be Cody Heffel. Today, the candidates will be debating foreign policy. Each candidate will have 1 minute for replies and 30 seconds for follow-ups. Candidates, you will know when your time is up when you hear this sound. All right, and without any further ado, I will begin with the first question. At what point, if at all, is it appropriate for the United States to intervene in the affairs of foreign governments, such as in the case of nations involved in the Arab Spring? President Obama, you will begin. Your minute starts now.
This is a very specific question. It's not one that has a direct formula of they have met this criteria, it is time for intervention, but a guidelines of when to start looking into these ideas, when the question may become an actual solution of United States intervention becoming necessary. When nations begin gaining weapons that can be dangerous to allies and friends in the region, when those nations begin disrespecting human rights and committing grievous errors and violations against their populations. It is the job of the United States to bring into question if it is our job to help protect these people and to make it our interest, whether this be through direct intervention or subtler, more monetary or even indirect support. It's all up to be debated and questioned throughout our government, but it is very important that it just not be it become a direct threat, but something we discuss through and see if warrants the threat.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your remarks. Governor Romney, you will also have 1 minute.
In regards to the issue of the situations in the Middle East, the primary issue that we see that we have to address is whether or not it's a threat not only to that individual country or as to whether or not it is a threat to the globe. It is at the point where the conflict itself begins to stretch across international borders, begins to go across seas to the United States, to Europe, to Africa, where that is the point where we must intervene. It is not when such and such government has fallen, we must come back to re-support the government. No, we must intervene only when the issue itself is becoming an international one. When it is no longer just an issue in Iraq with sectarian views, but an issue of sectarian views sparking a war not only within Iraq, but within Iran as well. This is such an issue that we must constantly consider. Take, for example, the issue between Israel and Palestine. Unfortunately, our president.
Thank you, Governor. Each candidate will now have 30-second replies. President Obama, you may begin.
It is of my opinion that Romney's plan seems a little too aggressive. Simply a pick and choose of when we should enter nations to our own interests. It is instead when it's of the people that are being suffering, that is of our job. It is not of nations' health or nations' economy, but of the people's health and safety. And this is what is important to consider, not if it is threatening not if it is threatening neighboring countries or what best suits us.
Governor Romney, you will also have 30 seconds.
Ultimately, the issue itself is that we must consider our own sake when we choose to intervene in a nation. Can we afford to take such actions? Is it legal to take such actions? Unfortunately, my potential predecessor has taken actions which has been under international law, been under great scrutiny. For example, when we decided to go into Pakistan, breaking international law to take out one terrorist. Granted, that terrorist was a serious threat. We did so without any communications with that nation.
Thank you, candidates, for your remarks. I will now move on to the next question. As president, how would you handle the declining economic state of the Eurozone? President Obama, you will have 1 minute.
The Eurozone is not just a concern of the European nations, but of the country. The Eurozone is so deeply tied into the economy of the world that its benefit and its health are important to every single country that has a currency. It must be dealt with by keeping the nations inside the Eurozone, not just having them throw off members trying to deal with it one at a time, shirking off and destroying the Eurozone, but as a team effort inside of Europe, and even with aid of foreign countries, to make sure the Eurozone maintains its stability and maintains its massive outflow in income through the global markets, so that its simple pullout or its simple jerk reaction to one nation falling off the bandwagon does not have massive negative impacts upon all countries of the world. And it is very important for the United States to keep a close eye on this.
Mr. Romney, you will also have 1 minute.
In that regard, what we need to do with the Eurozone is simply leave it be. There's yet to be a point in time where Euro states have ejected a member because of their inability to pay their debts, but rather instead the Eurozone has proved through their many conferences that they are capable of solving their own issue. Why should we be spending American dollars that we've borrowed from other nations to bail out another bank across the ocean that isn't necessarily in any point in time relevant to our own economics? It doesn't make sense, nor is it something that we can continue to do. It's simply too expensive. It's something that we need to consider as we move on with our foreign policy and our domestic policy. Is Europe important? Yes. However, Europe has also proved that it is capable of propping itself back up and getting itself back running. It's on that track right now. Italy, for example, some people have pointed out, is beginning to fail. There are plans in place from the European Union to get it back on track. The same can be said of Greece.
Thank you, President. Governor. We will now have 30 seconds for replies. President Obama, you may begin.
I'm incredibly concerned by my opponent's ideas on how to deal with the Eurozone. His views are very short term. Yes, they may only affect the Europeans right now. Their problems may be theirs right now. But we are in such a global society that our neighboring countries and our friends and allies' problems quickly can become our own. And to simply push this off till later is incredibly dangerous. It is our job to make sure to protect our nation, and this is how we do it.
Governor, you may begin your 30-second reply.
Quite frankly, isn't it an issue of as to whether or not it's a short-term problem or not? The European Union has proved that they are capable of solving the problem of the euro crisis. Will it be a long-term solution for them? Yes, it will. Is it a solution that requires the American government to intervene in it? And no, it is not. If it does get to such a point in time in which the entirety of the European Union, including powerhouses like Germany, France, and the United Kingdom, are failing, we need to take that into consideration at that point in time, not beforehand.
Thank you again, candidates, for your remarks. I will now proceed with the third question. If elected, what relationship would you pursue with major Eastern world powers, specifically Russia and China? President Obama, you may begin.
Our relations with China and Russia are of grave importance to our nation right now. Currently, we are in locked debate with Russia and China on whether or not to intervene in Syria. Their opposing viewpoints have harmed the people of Syria and are beginning to harm the neighboring nations. Our ability to communicate and negotiate with these nations is at one of its most important peaks. Currently, we are trying to establish a missile shield in Eastern Europe to help secure the Middle East and European zones and Western world, and even African nations from rogue nuclear states that exist in the Middle East. And Russia has great concerns over this. And it is very important that through proper communication and negotiation that this important defensive structure and defensive ideology of working together can be established and is a peak of importance.
Governor Romney, you may begin your answer. Starting with Russia, the first thing I would do as president is reevaluate the present START treaty. And that as of present, as the current president mentioned, there is the development of a missile shield in the Eastern European states. However, as of present, and under the current START treaty signed by our president, such a missile shield is nearly impossible to create politically. It is not viable under the present START treaty. Furthermore, and again going back to the START treaty, under the present agreement, our own ability to deter nations such as Iran and North Korea from utilizing nuclear weapons is being cut off at the knees. This is a serious issue we need to address. In regards to China, we have serious economic problems with. China is a place where they have been manipulating their currency for so long a time now, they practically own portions of America. This must be fixed. In that regard, we must begin to tighten our trading with China. We must consider what we can do about it.
Mr. President, you may now begin your 30-second reply.
My opponent says that we need to be tougher on China. Yet, when China was becoming an issue and the Obama administration filed a grievance with the World Trade Organization about China's attempting to harm American jobs through subsidies on our weaker corporations at the time, Romney spoke out against it. We are trying to reach these appropriate trade relations with China through negotiation, not flying off the cuff. Even Putin, the president of Russia, has shown concerns over
Your time
Romney's
is
plans.
expired, Mr. President. Governor, you will also now have a chance to reply.
Returning to China, again, the issue that we have to face here is that, yes, we can make as many grievances with the World Trade Organization as we may want. However, what may come of it is a very little. The World Trade Organization is just that, a world trade organization. It's international. It's according to the beliefs of other nations. This is the belief of the United States of America and the belief of China. These must be rescinded. These must be fixed by what we can do ourselves, in addition to whatever the World Trade Organization may decide on. Again, in regards to Syria.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you all for tuning in. Next time we will have different candidates debating social issues, so I will see you then.